So firstly, if you remember this 64 litre S-Repens carpeted tank with sword tails in the office room upstairs, and then if you remember this paludarium which also holds about 60 litres that I created in one of the last videos, this was actually in the kitchen. Well, I've took them both down and I've used the paludarium tank and I've put it where the 64 litre S-Repens tank used to be, in the upstairs room. This is just a preview of the tank before I've set it up. I'm going to set it up this weekend, so the next video will be this. Well, the next video will be me setting this up. I'll go over exactly what I'm using and all that stuff in the next video, but this is just a preview. It's 80 centimeters long, 30 centimeters depth, and 24.5 centimeters high. It's a turtle tank, as I explained before. This is what I'm going to be using, and I'm going to turn it into a neon Tetra black water tank. Very low maintenance, hopefully anyway. Now this bad boy is my main tank in the living room. This is the 140 litre 4 foot wide tank. The thing with this tank is it's 4 foot wide, but it doesn't hold a lot of water. It holds 140 litres, which isn't that much considering I want to keep these Boesmani rainbow fish. Now recently one Boesmani rainbow fish died. I had 4 adults, 2 of them I bought massive fully grown adults, and the one adult died. So I've got one of the adults in here that was massive, and then the other 2 males. I'm talking about the males, by the way. The other 2 males I bought very small, and the ones grew really quick and he's nearly matching the other big one. So I've got 3 males in here and 6 females, and the females are silver in colour. They don't look that great, so normally people keep a lot more of the males, but I don't really want to keep a lot of 5-inch fish in this 140 litre tank. I just don't think it's big enough. So I've ordered a 300 litre aquarium, so it's 4 foot wide, same as this left to right, but it's 2 foot tall, so it's nearly twice as tall as this one, and the depth also increases as well by about 6 inches. So it's 48 inch wide, 18 inches depth and 24 inches tall, so it holds a bit more than double this tank, but it's not any wider. It should look really good, because the tank's going to be tall, all the vallis and that I've got in here, like the tall grass, that can really grow tall because it's been restricted in this tank because the height is not very high. But the thing with this new tank that I've ordered is that it's going to operate like a marine tank, meaning it's going to be using a sump, 100 litre sump, and the sump is nearly the same size as this tank here. So the sump's going to be about 100 litres itself, and the sump is a second tank that sits on the bottom in the cupboard, and it acts as a filtration. All my filter media will go in there, so the whole system's going to be 400 litres, whereas this tank here is only 140. It's going to be plumbed in and everything. It's going to be, it's going to have holes drilled in the back for the plumbing. It's going to look amazing. There's going to be no pipes running around the sides or no canister filters, because one of the reasons I wanted to go for the sump, I know it's major overkill, but with the sump it's easier to clean than a canister filter, because the canister filter you have to take the top off, you have to reseal it and make sure it doesn't leak, because every time you take the top off there's a chance that the seals could leak once you put it back together, I just think it's a bit of a pain, and it doesn't hold that much media in comparison to this sump. So the sump that I'm using is going to hold, you know, about 20 times the amount of filter media that a canister filter will. And the canister filter that I currently use is a Fluval 406. It's a £150 filter, and the sump will hold so much more media. It'll just allow me to keep as many fish as I want, basically. So I'm going to go for I'm going to have about 10 adult Boesmani rainbow fish, which are obviously the yellow and blue ones I've got in this tank. And because the water volume is going to be so large, I reckon I'll be able to keep about 10 of them, 10 males, 6 females. Got the 3 Siamese algae eaters in here. They're really fat at the moment. I looked at a previous video, and the Siamese algae eaters, when I bought them, they weren't as nearly as big. So I'm just doing a water change here whilst I explain what I'm going to be doing in the future. So this tank's on order, so I'll get it in the next month or 2, and I'll be going through exactly what I'm going to do with it. I'm also going to build the stand as well. I'm going to build the stand, and then when the tank comes, I'll just sit the tank on top rather than buy a stand, because I want to know that it's going to be strong enough to support 300 litres, because that's a heavy tank. So I need to know that the stand can take that weight, or twice its weight, you know, just for peace of mind really. And the water changes won't be any different on the bigger tank, because I use this method, which is, you know, a pump and a really long hose. So all that will be different with doing water changes on a tank 3 times its volume is just waiting longer for the water to come out. So really there's way too many fish in this tank at the moment. You know, I've got 9 Boesmanis, I had 10 Boesmanis, 6 Panda Cories that I've had for 2.5 years, 3 Siamese algae eaters, and about 6 Otto Sinclaires. It's a lot of fish for this size tank, but because I do about 50% water changes every week, then I think the water parameters are still really good. So I'm just going to show you some of the filter media that I've got. This is Japanese mat. They use this in koi ponds, I think. It's like a really coarse filter foam. It's not really a sponge, it's more of just plastic mesh, but this is going to help to keep my other filter media in place, like some of the floss and stuff like that. That'll keep it together. And this is filter floss, because you've got to remember that buying stuff like this in bulk costs a lot less. So I just got a load of this filter floss, and I might just bung it all in, because the sump's going to be massive. I got these empty filter bags just to put ceramic rings and things like that in, just to keep it all in bags. Only cost a couple of quid. Plastic zip bags. And this is going to be the return pump. It's really heavy. It's a bit of a beast. 4,500 litres per hour it pumps. So you want to get about 10 times the turnover of a tank. So altogether the system is going to be 400 litres times 10, 4,000. But you've got to take into consideration the metre height that it's got to pump. It will reduce the flow significantly. This is just some egg crate. This is what I'll put in the bottom of the sump, and I'll build it up just to give like a little shelf for all the media. Matrix. This is like your ceramic rings. It does the biological filtration, but it's quite expensive for how much it is. But it's supposed to reduce nitrates. So I've got them out the tub and I've put them in these little mesh bags. But yeah, it's supposed to reduce nitrates, so I'm going to use that, see what happens. I've got a litre of that. That should be more than enough for my tank. And this is a little preview of what I'm going to be putting in the black water tank upstairs. This is the substrate in the rocks and soaking some wood. These rocks and substrate and even the wood, that was all in the paludarium. Just a little preview of the pond while I'm here. I think all the plants are gonna start to die off soon. I'm not sure. I think some of them will carry on growing as it gets colder, but I think a lot of them will probably die off. And this is my single neon tetra that I have in the big tank. Basically, I had about 7 of these in the upstairs tank with the sword tails, but I took them out and put them in this tank so the sword tails could breed like in peace without neon tetras everywhere. But a lot of them died over time. You know, no real issues, they just died. I'm left with 1 neon tetra, which is mainly the reason why I'm creating a neon tetra black water tank. It's going to be a nice little biotope for this single neon tetra. Obviously I'll buy a big group of them. I'm not just going to have 1 neon tetra, because you know they need to be in groups really. You can't just have 1 neon tetra floating around. So I'll probably get about 6 or 7 to add with him in the neon tetra biotope. So they're the 2 tanks, the 60 litre nano black water tank that will have all the neon tetras, floating plants, some pothos, you know, it's going to look really nice. And then the big tank, that will be the 300 litre freshwater tank with the 100 litre sump. It's going to be really interesting. Not really sure what I'm doing with a big tank like that, and especially with a sump. So that'll be interesting. I'll be recording it all, and I'll be recording the black water tank as well. So they're the 2 tanks that I'll be showing off in the upcoming videos. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.